Welcome to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher, where we take you behind the scenes with peak performers to learn what makes them tick and discover how you can apply their lessons to your life. I'm your host, Molly Fletcher. Today's guest is taking a timeout from the WNBA playoffs to join us. Elena Delle Donne is a six-time WNBA All-Star, 2015 League MVP, and the 2016 Olympic gold medalist. This year, she became the first player to join the 50-40-90 club, shooting 50% from the field, 40% from three, and 90% from the free throw line. Elena received her first scholarship offer in the 7th grade and seemed destined to be the face of the game. After arriving at UConn as a college freshman, Elena left campus after 48 hours. She returned home and quit basketball. Eventually realizing she missed the game, Elena finished her college career at Delaware and went on to star in the WNBA. For Elena, there's always been something bigger than basketball. Her biggest motivation is her sister, Lizzie, who was born deaf, blind, with cerebral palsy and autism. They communicate through touch and are each other's biggest fans. Today, Elena talks about her journey of self-discovery, how she stays mentally tough, and the two biggest keys to her success. Let's dig in. Here's my conversation with Elena Delle Donne. Elena, welcome to Game Changers. I so appreciate you taking time in the middle of the playoffs, by the way, to join us. Thanks.
No problem.
You know, I want to dig right in. Our listeners know you certainly as a star in the WNBA, but there was a moment and point in your life where you quit basketball entirely, which I'm not sure everybody knows. So let's start there. I mean, you're a top recruit in the country, and you know you're coming out obviously, and then you walked away from all of it. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why and what you learned from that?
So it was a few things that went into it. It wasn't just like, obviously it wasn't a decision that I made in one day. I feel like the recruiting process kind of got a little too much. And it also made me feel like I had to go somewhere far away from home and far away from my family to be at one of the top schools and do what everybody else did, because I was the number one recruit. And what you're supposed to do is go to either, at my time, it was UConn or Tennessee. And I just felt like I wasn't deciding my own path, and I was exhausted from basketball and just kind of needed to step away. And I had lost all the passion for the game and just knew I wasn't going to be able to put into it what my teammates would need of me, what I needed of myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to just stop playing.
And what drew you back?
So in college, I decided to go play volleyball.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of random, but
sure, that's okay.
You know,
well, I mean, what were you, a middle at 6'5"?
Yeah, I was a middle hitter. I'm very tall, so volleyball kind of worked. And my whole life, I had been part of a team. That's not something I would ever burn out from.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to be a part of a team still, and I played a year at the University of Delaware. And then right when basketball season kind of came around, I started getting an itch and just kind of ignored it. And then when the Final Four came around, especially, I remember having that moment of like, what am I doing? I've worked my whole life playing basketball. At some point, I absolutely loved the game because I poured so much into it. So I kind of was able to figure out like, hey, I don't think it was basketball's fault for burning me out. I had to kind of just step away from it to figure out who I was outside of the game, stop defining myself as only a basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
And once I did that, I was able to go back into it and love it.
And how did your parents handle that, right? I mean, we have so many parents that listen whose kids probably play sports.
Yeah.
What was their role in that?
Oh, they struggled a little bit. I mean, it was really hard for them because I hadn't opened up about it in years. So to them, it seemed like a rash decision. And it seemed like I was just making this out of the blue because I was so internalizing all my feelings and I wasn't good at just like expressing myself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So for them, I think it kind of took like a period of time for them to figure out like, oh, wow, she has been struggling for a while. She's not just shy and quiet. She was actually going through some things. And when they saw, my joy being at the University of Delaware and even my joy playing volleyball, they're like, wow, like this has been missing and we didn't even realize it. And they were sorry and they were sad that they didn't notice I was going through all that, but it's hard. Like, how do you know what your teenage girl is going through? We go through a lot. And, it's just kind of difficult to see all that I was struggling with. So they supported me, and then they definitely supported me when I decided on my own to go back to basketball. And they just wanted me to make sure, like, are you sure? Like, do you feel pressure right now? Is that why you're doing it? Or are you actually doing this because you miss it?
And when you said I miss it, they said, well, then, yeah, we love you, but let's support you with that.
Exactly. Yeah, they were right there to support me.
That's cool. And your sister, Lizzie, I want to talk about her because I know she's such a big part of your life and really you say is your biggest motivation.
Yes.
Tell our listeners about your relationship and what it is about her that inspires you so much.
Yes. So she's my older sister, and she was born deaf and blind with cerebral palsy, autism, and other intellectual disabilities. So in my entire life, I've never spoken a word to her. But we communicate in person through touch, through hugs, through laughter. And she knows a few signs of her own that she's like kind of made up, and she'll sign them into our hands, and then we can sign something back into her hands. So cool. That's the way we communicate. But she's persevered through so much. So many doctors said, she would never walk. She would never be able to hold her head up on her own. And she's exceeded all those expectations.
And I know you have a tattoo on your arm, right? And you sort of hit
it's actually, it's on my ribs.
You have a tattoo on your ribs. And so,
yes.
But don't you sort of rub that or touch that sometimes in tough moments in games? Just reminds you, like, she's a grinder. I got to grind like she does.
Yeah, exactly. Before every game, I kiss my hand and then I rub my side just to kind of channel my inner Lizzie so I can fight like her.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's sort of dive in. I mean, here you're starting a really special season. I mean, you've obviously are enjoying a really special season with the Mystics, and and I know for you personally, if I asked your teammates, for example, to describe you and maybe your leadership style, what would they say about the way you show up as a leader on the Mystics?
Yeah, I think they would say I lead in different ways. So there's days where sometimes, people come to practice and will not be as locked in as we need to. And those will be the days I'll be a vocal leader where I feel like, we don't always have to hear coach's voice telling us to lock in or focus on something. So I'll step up and say something in that situation. Or, before every game, I bring them in a huddle and I talk to them about what we need to do. And then after the game, I also bring them into a huddle and, we'll kind of express what we did great, what we need to work on, and what we need to move forward to do. So that's where I'm a vocal leader, but I'd also say I'm a lead by example type of person where I'm in the gym early. They see how I take care of my body, how I'm very consistent with that, where, I'll get in extra conditioning if I feel like I need it. So I try to lead in that way. And then I think the final way is just like trying to be a comfort for people. So when I'm on the floor, they have a sense of comfort, like, hey, we're good. And that's something I learned from Sue Bird, one of the greatest leaders in our game. And when we were playing with USA Basketball, it was just when she was on the floor, we all had kind of like an ease and could take a deep breath because we knew, she's in control and we're good. So I tried to bring that to my team.
That's awesome. At the pro level, you have to be, as mentally tough as you are physically tough. How do you strengthen your mental game?
So actually, the mental aspect, that's something I've picked up in the past 2 years, maybe 3, since coming to the Mystics. Our coach really puts a lot of value into training our minds as well. So we work with a great guy. His name's Stu Singer, and he helps us to learn how to stay present and to be aware of the moment and be aware of our thoughts. And by doing that, I've been able to train myself. So I meditate daily, just for 10 minutes, but it really helps me to bring calm and awareness to my day, and be aware of where my thoughts are taking me, and knowing that I can change the story that I'm telling myself. They're just thoughts. It's it's not factual. But it's crazy. We talk to ourselves so much in a day, and you need to be aware of what, those thoughts are and what you're telling yourself over and over. And you can always change that story. If it's negative, you can turn it into a positive and just be aware.
Sure. What, in addition to meditation, which I know so many athletes have leaned into, and business people, right? The world has in so many ways, which we know changes the brain physically, which is pretty incredible. What else do you do to stay present and stay mentally tough?
I try to just make sure that, like, when I go into the gym, I'm super locked in, super focused, and all I'm worried about is the mystics and, how can we get better here? But the second I leave that gym, I really try to separate myself from the basketball side of things. And it can be hard to do. And a lot of times when I get home, I'll meditate. So it helps me kind of just shift gears into a more relaxed mindset where, I'm home, I'm with my wife, I'm with my dogs, I'm doing other things. I think it's so important to be able to step away from what you do, because if you do something passionately and you do it as best as you can every day, you need to be able to go home and step away from it.
We'll get right back to the show, but first, I wanted to remind you of our upcoming Game Changer Negotiation Training Workshop on November 7th in Atlanta. Whether you are in HR, sales, or leadership, negotiation is a critical skill to master. Negotiation doesn't have to be a battle or something you fear. It should be a conversation you feel confident navigating. That's why we're offering a full-day workshop so you can learn the tools and tactics to negotiate effectively. Stop being intimidated and start getting results. Sign up for our next public workshop on November 7th in Atlanta. Register today at GameChanger360.com. That's GameChanger360.com. One of the things I saw certainly in my days as a sports agent is the number of distractions that professional athletes have is enormous, right? What systems what systems do you have in place that help you stay focused on what matters most?
I feel like it hasn't been that hard for me. I've been able to kind of prioritize what's most important. And for me, family has always been number one. And then whatever I'm doing, I want to do it to the best of my ability. So, if I see something is going to kind of get me off my focus or hinder my ability to be the best I can for my team, I know to stay away from that. Or I have great people around me that can help me kind of just take a step back. Even my agent knows, like, in season, certain things don't bother me with. We'll handle that in the off season.
Sure, that's huge.
So
that's huge.
It's kind of just having the people around you knowing, like, look, when she's in season or when she's in playoffs, don't even think about bothering her with this. And unfortunately for my wife, she has to handle a lot of those distractions, like getting people tickets or working on their parking passes for games. But she wants me to be so locked into my game and knows, that I shouldn't be bothered with that she takes on a big load.
Sure. Yeah, no question. Well, I appreciate in the middle of the playoffs you taking a minute to jump onto this. Certainly. Thank you for
no
that.
Problem.
Elena, you've accomplished so much professionally. How do you approach goal setting and really pushing yourself to continue to grow?
I think the biggest thing is always having like that learner's mindset, knowing that you never know it all and you can always learn more and you can always improve. And then I always try to surround myself with people who are great in their craft. So for example, like I have a strength coach who's just so good and so ahead of the game, where she's not one of those people that just kills your body, but she's one that knows body movements and how can I help her move better and more efficient so that she doesn't get injured and all that. So it's never just me formulating ways to get better. It's me trying to get the best people possible and that know the most to help me better my craft. And then at the end of the season, I'll evaluate like where we are, where our team finished, where I was individually, and kind of just put a plan forward for the off season, like what I need to do to improve. What are some things that I really want to get better at? So like last off season, I really wanted to work on my passing. because I see a lot of double teams and I see a lot of different defenses, and I need to be able to pass from so many different angles and be able to pick up the ball real quickly off my dribble.
Mm-hmm.
So that was huge to my off season, and it's really helped me to just free up my teammates and give them confidence to get them the ball in the right areas. And then in turn, that kind of makes my job easier because defenses just can't focus as much on me.
Sure. So you've had some clearly defining moments in your life that shape in some ways, clearly who you are and how you do things, right? Maybe it's something that's changed your path or certainly your perspective. But tell me that, like, what's been a defining moment in your life, and how has it served you as you've continued to grow up and evolve into the woman, to the person that you are today?
Mm-hmm. I'd say the biggest thing has been meeting my wife. Before meeting her, I was closeted about, being gay and just wasn't comfortable in being myself. Like, I felt like it wasn't okay to be gay, so I had to hide it. And then through meeting her, I just gained so much confidence, and a confidence where it's like, who the hell cares what people think? If they have a problem with me being myself, then why are they in my life,
Mm-hmm, sure.
Or why am I hearing that noise?
Mm-hmm.
So she's truly helped me just become confident in being myself. And that's been such a game changer. And it's just led to so much happiness, and just knowing that it really doesn't matter what others think, as long as the ones in your corner that mean the most to you support you and love you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go out there and be yourself and be the best person you possibly can be, then that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, speaking of distractions, right? That's a lot of noise out there and a lot of distraction, no question.
So much.
So, Elena, what do you envision your life looking like after basketball? What do you think that looks like?
That's a really good question, and I still struggle because it's so hard for me to see past my playing career. But I do love this game so much. I think I'll be involved in some way, whether that be, starting a basketball academy where I can train kids and kind of teach them the game, or who knows. I've always said I don't want to coach, but, I never will shut the door to anything like that, because I just know I love this game, and I feel like I've played it for so long that I know it very well, and it's something that I want to be involved in for as long as I'm alive.
Well, and just knowing what I know about you, your perspective and sort of the way you look at the game as, you ensure that you are a whole person beyond the game, based on, and your passion for your family and your willingness to make an effort, which is hard to do as a professional athlete, to stay balanced, is powerful. I mean, I don't know. I'd vote for you to be a heck of a basketball coach, girl.
Thank you.
I mean, seriously. So,
thank you.
So when you boil down the success that you've had, what would you say are maybe 2 or 3 things that you would attribute it to?
I mean, number one, I would say being a good teammate. That's everything. Being able to make people around you better. That's number one, especially in a team sport. And then I'd say really just loving my craft. Like, I love the off season because it's the time where I actually get to get into the lab and figure out ways to improve my game in really small ways. Because when you're a pro, obviously, you're at the peak of your game, but
Sure.
It's fun to challenge yourself and figure out small ways to get advantages over others. So I'd say those are my 2 biggest things.
Elena, we end with rapid fire. I'm going to fire off a couple quick questions to you, and then we'll wrap. But before we do, I think it's pretty cool, and I just want to touch on the sort of Xoom Universe. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
On your
yes,
Xoom Universe Nike shoes. Tell our listeners about these shoes, which I know are serving Lizzie so well.
Yeah. So these are shoes that are truly for all. I created them with Nike, where it's a basketball shoe that I can wear on court, so it can be worn by a professional athlete at the top level. But then it's also something where it's great for someone with special needs to get into. So it's got an easy entry and easy exit for somebody who struggles to get their foot into a shoe.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, the closure, it doesn't have you tying your shoes. So it's just a strap that will, form around your foot. And all you have to do is just strap it up. So you can really put the shoe on with just one hand.
Wow, that's all. And so you wear these, and Lizzie wears these, and many
Yes.
other people in the world wear these.
Exactly. So they'll be out in November for everybody to buy. But right now, yes, Lizzie and I both wear them.
That's good stuff. All right. So one word to describe yourself.
Loyal.
Loyal. One word your teammates would use to describe you.
Leader.
Nice. What's your favorite hobby?
I love boating.
Okay, cool. And you play golf
Yeah.
too, right?
Yes, I do golf.
Yeah, that's awesome. Who's an athlete you most admire and why?
Megan Rapinoe. She's just fearlessly stuck up for people who can't stick up for themselves. And even at times when people have, come at her for doing that, she continues to push forward.
Who's the toughest player you've ever faced?
Probably Tamika Catchings.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what is success to Elena Delle Donne?
I would just say it's being your best daily and demanding excellence daily.
So the show's called Game Changers. So one last question. Who's a game changer? And I think I know where this is going to go. Who inspires you and why?
Definitely my sister, and how she's just persevered so much throughout life and done so much, even with all the disabilities that have been thrown her way.
Yeah. Well, listen, Elena, I'm wishing you nothing but the best in the playoffs. Just go out there and crush like you do. And I'll certainly be cheering for you. So thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
Thanks, as always, for listening to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher. On the next episode of Game Changers, I'm joined by Enneagram expert Ian Cron. We dig into the Enneagram, which is a personality assessment, to discover the 9 personality types and how we can better understand one another at work. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. There you can listen to previous episodes and leave us a review, which helps other people find out about the show. For more about me, visit mollyfletcher.com. Until next time, stay curious and be bold.